everyone. How's it going? How's it going? If you have not seen my previous video covering the Saw rankings, Saw 1 through 4, then this might be a little bit confusing. But basically, I am going through all the Saw movies, including Spiral. I ranked Jigsaw's reasons, motives, whatever god complex he has for every single person that gets tested throughout the series. Let's go ahead and jump in. I do have a lot of notes up as well. I have like a whole Google Doc of a list of like basically everybody. Hopefully I didn't leave anybody out. We're looking at Saw 5. All of the people that are getting tested like in the main testing, because there's like throughout the movies, there are some individuals that are getting tested that are not part of the main plot. So actually, let me get these out of the way real quick. Hoffman, who is like a main detective and at this point is revealed to be a Jigsaw apprentice who had been there for a while now. His sister got murdered by Seth, and the time that Seth spent in jail was not sufficient. The trap that he was in was this swinging pendulum trap. This trap, though, was unfortunately a rigged trap. He was destined to die. Hoffman had built this trap and used it to make it look like it was a Jigsaw trap, but he was actually just being tested by Hoffman. So Seth killed somebody. He served some time, but really 5 years, that is a pretty lousy amount for taking somebody's life. I'm going to say based. He didn't really serve a lot of time. I would be a little bit upset too. The main group that's getting tested is Ashley, Britt, Charles, Luba, and Malik. Each one kind of plays a different role in the burning of a building that ended up killing innocent people. Ashley, I didn't remember too much. She was the first one that was killed. So she faked an accident report that covered an arson case in which 8 people were killed. The trap that killed her was, there was like these spinning blades that they were going to get pulled into. All of them had like a chain around their neck, and it was like kind of whirring them closer to it. They kind of had to like work together in order to move up to get a key, unlock themselves, but then do it quick enough to where everybody could have the time to retrieve their key to unlock. Otherwise, when the time runs out, whoever isn't unlocked is going to get pulled back into the blades. Ashley, unfortunately, ran out of time. She was the last one, and so she got killed. She didn't physically kill anybody like what Seth did. However, I would say he's onto something for this one, Jigsaw testing Ashley, because she did do something that directly covered up 8 people's deaths. So now Britt, she was the real estate developer that orchestrated the arson plan. She knew people were still living in the building, but it was good property, and she wanted that. She was kind of the one that ended up pulling all the strings for everything. Like she hired somebody to, or she paid somebody to hire an arsonist, which the arsonist was Malik. I would definitely say based in this decision. So Charles is another one of the Fatal 5. So he was an investigative journalist, and he accepted a bribe to not publish his findings on the arson. I'm going to say he's onto something. The test that Charles ended up, which only like 4 tunnels, and there was a nail bomb, Jigsaw says, or he like alludes, there's only 4 tunnels. Oh no, there's only 3 tunnels, but there's 4 of you. What are you going to do? Obviously, everybody like is out for themselves, so they like scatter and run to the different tunnels where their safety is going to be before the nail bomb goes off. And they like close the doors behind them, and they leave Charles out there. He doesn't make it, and he ends up getting killed by the nail bomb. When they show the tunnels, though, there very clearly was enough room for multiple people to get in. If they squeezed, nobody worked together, and it ends up coming back around. I'm going to skip Hoffman for now, and then let's go to Luba. So she accepted a bribe to create a new building permit for the known arson case. Again, she wasn't, it was sort of hands off involvement in a way. Like, she wasn't as dirty as, like, say, Britt. She obviously knew what was going to happen and she accepted a bribe. I think I'm going to put her into the he's onto something. Her test, there's this bathtub and there's like all these different clamps. And basically they have to like take a shock, a certain amount of volts to get the door to open up. Otherwise, they'll just die in the room. Instead of sharing the pain, like dividing it up by 3, Britt actually kills Luba, like just straight up stabs her and throws her in the bath. And then they like put all the clamps on her. And then that's enough volts to open the door. And Britt and Malik are able to proceed. I don't know. You guys let me know if I'm being too lenient on these people. They obviously knew what was going on and either covered for it or turned a blind eye to it. I don't know. I mean, those could be base decisions too. Malik was a junkie who was the arsonist. Apparently, he didn't know that there were people still living in the building. He accepted drugs as payment for committing the arson that killed 8 people. So he was the one that was most physically involved in doing this. Even though it's a mistake, I think I'm going to put it in based, because he did cause the death of those people. Getting to the test, so Malik and Britt, the final 2, they had to do the blood of sacrifice. And basically there's this row of boxes you would have to stick your hand in, and there was like a table saw. You basically had to sacrifice a certain amount of blood. That would be the only way out of the room. There were 5 boxes. And it was at that point that Britt and Malik realized everybody could have lived if they just worked together on it. I think they had to give 2 pints of blood or something like that. I have it in my notes. Let me see. So between the 2 of them, they had to each give 2.5 pints of blood. If everybody worked together, it would have only been 1 pint. And so by the end of it, they both decided they were going to work together. Both of them got their arms just absolutely torn the fuck up. They survived, though, which is pretty wild. I actually really liked that Fatal 5 thing. I thought that was cool. But why do you saw up to the elbow? Yeah, the machine wasn't measuring inches cut. Like, what the fuck? There could have been ways to get around that. Like, something I don't understand is, like, they had access to the previous room where Luba was in the bath. Why couldn't they have just taken her body? Like, if they, like, unplugged or, like, took, like, the conductors off of her, couldn't they have just used her body to get the blood? Or couldn't they have used other fluid? And then also the crazy thing too is, who was it? No, it wasn't Strom. It was another FBI agent actually showed up not too long after they finished their test to rescue them. Hoffman was being tested initially in this movie. Yeah, it was in a flashback. These movies have so many freaking flashbacks. Sometimes it's hard to tell what's in the present, what's in the past, and all of that. He was being tested by John Kramer personally for killing Seth and making it look like a jigsaw trap. When he gets tested by Jigsaw, who's like in front of him during the test, he basically was just like, oh, you're not Jigsaw, but you tested him, blah, 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 blah. He was like, murder is wrong, and he goes on like his whole usual spiel, and, it's silly. So the test that Hoffman has to go through is basically just a psychological one. He has a shotgun that's like basically pointed at his face, and all he has to do is pull the trigger. But it was empty, or there was like a blank in it or something. Because he is a detective, so he was basically told by Jigsaw, you can either turn me in, but then it's going to reveal that you killed Seth and that I didn't do that, or you become my apprentice. Hoffman became his apprentice, and that's basically how it started. I'm going to say him getting tested was, I guess, based. I mean, obviously, he killed somebody, and then he tried to frame it on Jigsaw, so yeah, he should have been tested. And so Strom has, like, the box of water. It wasn't too much of a test, I would say, as just, like, a method to kill him, because I don't think he even had a tape, or at least I don't think it showed a tape. I think it was just something that Hoffman made to basically kill him, but it didn't work. Strom, like, I forget what the medical term for it is. He used a pen, like, he, like, took the ink out and all that and stabbed himself in the trachea, and was it tracheectomy or something like that? And basically it allowed air to come through so he didn't drown. I forgot, he got tested twice in this movie. So in the beginning of the movie is when he does, like, the water test, but then there's that glass coffin thing that happens at the end, and that is eventually what ends up killing him. The second time when he got tested, it was because he was too obsessed with the Jigsaw case, and it was basically Hoffman saying to him, okay, you figured out it was me, good job, back off. He was told the only way he'd be able to get out of the room is inside of this glass coffin. Is this your favorite horror franchise? If not, what is? Interesting question. I find these movies very entertaining. I think that my favorite franchise would probably have to be the Scream franchise. I just love those movies. The only movie I didn't care for in the Scream franchise would be Scream 5. I thought that was really bad. I hated it. I did not like Ghost Billy at all. That was totally unnecessary, and I just did not vibe with it. Scream 6, though, I did enjoy. I thought that that was better. There was a little bit of Ghost Billy, but it was like, you know, it was whatever. If I were to rank the Scream movies, the original first one is number 1. Do I like 2 more than 4? Scream 1, Scream 4, 2, 3, 6, 5, I think is how I would do it. He thought it was a trap, of course, like, well, more than just a jigsaw trap, but he thought it was literally Hoffman was going to kill him if he went into it. So he said, like, fuck that. Hoffman confronted him. Strom pushes Hoffman in, and then it gets revealed that the room is going to crush itself, but the coffin goes into a safe spot. Strom, unfortunately, gets a really, really brutal end for somebody that was just doing their damn job. The whole point of Saw 6 is it follows this guy, William, and he's like a head honcho insurance provider guy. John Kramer has a run-in with him. He basically like says, well, you decide who lives and who dies, because William gets to decide, you know, who will be provided insurance, who doesn't, and it costs people their lives, of course. So the movie revolves around William getting tested, where he's usually provided with a choice where either he saves this person or he saves that person, or he has to sacrifice something for somebody to live. One of the first tests where he has to pick between person A or person B, it's between Alan or Addie. They are both hung up with like a barbed wire like rope thing, which is kind of excessive, but whatever. William basically has to pick, one lives, one dies. Jigsaw kind of taunts him like, oh, well, Addie is a grandmother. She has this big family and she's a big part of the community and she's loved by everyone. Alan is a nobody. He's a moderator. Doesn't really have a big family, no siblings. Definitely not as big of a support system as Addie. I think it even, Jigsaw was like, oh, he's single and shit like that. He's like, according to your insurance, though, like how you would pick somebody, Addie would be the one that you would not cover because she's older and she has diabetes. But Alan, you know, he's young and all this, so he would be covered. Is this what you're going to stick to? It's a very tough decision for William because, oh, one thing I should add, everybody that's being tested are all employees under William at his insurance company. And so it's obviously a tough decision for him, but he ends up picking Addie. Addie getting tested? Absolutely not. And Alan getting tested, I'm going to also just put absolutely not. I don't think he's actually a mod. I'm pretty sure I don't have that in my notes. So I think Debbie was a lawyer for the insurance company, and so she always has to help William and deal with people trying to sue because they got dropped for reasons that were scummy. Her trap was the hot steam maze. William had to lead her from above, and there were times where he could basically take the hot steam hits to allow her safe passage. And so, to his credit, he would. He did get burnt quite a bit by that steam. Unfortunately, Debbie, upon like getting through, I think it was like an x-ray picture or something like that, she saw that the key to unlock her like death collar was surgically placed in William's side. She had to get the key out of him, so she had a knife, try to kill him. He managed to like keep her away until the timer went off and she died. As a side note though, her death collar was like a knife thing that basically when the timer went off, it would just shoot, like it shot through, like up through her head. I don't know why when the timer went off, she didn't just crack her head like back so it would miss. So she already has a couple negatives working against her. She's a lawyer, which obviously Jigsaw hates. And then 2, a lawyer for a shitty insurance company. So she is kind of a bad guy. I don't know. I'm going to put he's onto something. Eddie and Simone, let me move her down. They both did work together and they were kind of pitted against each other. Simone and Eddie were money lenders that would loan people a lot more money than they could afford, which would cause many people to plunge into debt and getting their properties repossessed. The test that they had was a pound of flesh. And basically whoever donated more flesh by the end of the timer would live, the other would die. It was kind of an interesting juxtaposition for them because Eddie was like an overweight guy. Simone was like, they showed like a lot more slim and like she's like pulling at her skin to see what she could cut off while Eddie is like just slicing fat off and all of that and slapping it on. But Simone ends up prevailing by cutting her arm off and she survives. I don't know. It's kind of scummy. Is it worth getting tested over though? I don't know. I'm gonna put donate the player for them because people gotta take a little personal responsibility too. If you are going to be taking out more money than you can afford, I don't know if it's the lender's fault. I don't know. What do you guys think? Hank, this is the smoker one. Hank was pitted against William actually in this one. So when William came to, he was in this device. There was like a mask. The trap measures breathing. So whoever can hold their breath the longest will live. You might see where this is going. Hank is a smoker and a janitor for the company. And as Jigsaw points out, Hank is a smoker despite his high blood pressure. They would get crushed on the side. So like they had like these plates here and every breath that they took, the weights would like push in a bit more. And so then when Hank eventually couldn't hold his breath, he just got like crushed in. So gnarly. I'm going to say petty. I do think smoking's kind of gross. I mean, you do you, but getting tested for that, come on, Jigsaw, like be real. Okay, so shotgun carousel. Sounds fun, right? So there are 6 people on there. They have names, but I was not about to do all of them separately. They were all inspectors. William referred to them as like his dog crew or his pit crew, or there was like something that had a bit of like savage connotation to it, but they were inspectors that would find errors in policies so that the company doesn't have to provide coverage for the seriously ill. A pretty shitty job. It is a job though, so that's something to consider. Some people, they can excuse whether their job's moral or ethical because it provides a paycheck. If I remember correctly, they seem to be giddy, excited, if you will, over getting to deny somebody coverage. So that's pretty fucked up. I'm going to put them into he's onto something. Basically how the shotgun carousel trap worked, Jigsaw was petty as fuck in this, in the way how he determined how many people could live or not. William's company can only provide coverage for, I think it's like 1/3 of all the applicants. 2 of the 6 symbolizes the blood on William's hands. Very poetic. So William has to stick his hand into a machine and basically accept getting stabbed through the hand when he wants to save the person. So the carousel would rotate, and there's a shotgun pointed at them. He can only pick 2 people out of the 6 to survive. So the one that he wants to live, he basically takes a stab in the hand for. When the gun fires, I don't know, something happens with the round or it doesn't go off. And it's crazy. Like, as the carousel's like going around, everybody's like yelling out reasons as to why they should live. One of them says that she's pregnant and she ends up living, but the other people are like yelling at her, calling her a bitch, saying she's lying. It was just a very intense scene. Picking them, I'd say based, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. We'll put them in based, but I think I'll put them maybe at the bottom. Maybe. I think I'll put them at the bottom of based, but I think that is a good home for them. I'll just put him in based for now. I'll put him above them. When he reaches the end, so after the shotgun carousel, that's it. He goes to like the final room. There's this woman and her son, and they get to decide whether William lives or he dies. They get to decide if they forgive him for not providing coverage for the husband or father when he needed it, and he denied him, and because he couldn't get the coverage, he ended up dying from, I think it was cancer, some sort of cancer. The woman was, I think, willing to forgive him, but the son wasn't, and so he ended up getting him executed. And it was gnarly too. It was like all these like danged like syringes like came down, and they pumped him full of like some kind of acid, and so like his body just like melted, and it was so gross, but it was great though. So then the final test of this movie was Hoffman again. I can't even begin to explain everything that was going on behind the scenes of the main tests, but basically Hoffman finds himself getting tested again, this time by Jill Tuck, who was John Kramer's wife or ex-wife. I don't remember exactly if they were married. John Kramer, like after he had passed, had some things given to his wife that included some ominous envelopes with some tasks that she had to complete. One of those tasks was to test Hoffman again. I guess Jigsaw wasn't satisfied, and he felt Hoffman had to get tested again. Jill put the reverse bear trap on him, claiming it was Jigsaw's final wish for him to be tested, but she did not provide a key. Hoffman found a way to hack the bear trap, which was very clever, I would say. I think he like breaks his hand or something to get it out of a restraint, then he can release his other hand. And then he goes to like this window or this door, and he basically shoves his like head through it. So that way, like the outer parts of the bear trap get stopped by the metal framing. So it only rips his mouth like a little bit, but then he's able to like break it open and get it off before the pressure of it fully busts open. Him getting tested after being tested, and there wasn't any additional reason. It was just Jigsaw being like, I'm going to test you again. Petty. Final wish was for him to be tested. That's just weird. Get a life. I'm going to get these two out of the way real quick. So we're on to the next movie. Saw, what is this? Saw 3D, which, is interesting. Alex and Sydney. So they were a couple, and they were paired together. The reason why they were being tested was because Alex was abusive towards Sydney, and she didn't leave him. I guess Jigsaw just thought, you should be tested then, because clearly you don't want to live. Saw 3D's opening was laughable. Yes. Oh my God. Brad, Dina, and Ryan. Yeah, that was an interesting trap. Sydney, absolutely not. Fucked up Jigsaw. Absolutely not. Alex getting tested, abusive. Yeah, I'll put based. Both hanging onto barbed wire above essentially all these lawnmower like motors. Only one can live, so they kind of have to like kick at each other or get one of them to fall. Okay, so the opening was 3 people. So there was Ryan, Brad, Dinah, I don't know why Jigsaw was wasting his time with this, but basically Dina was fooling around with both of these guys. These guys were like doing petty crimes to like buy her things, like stealing some stuff to provide for her. It was just like a lover's quarrel, essentially sprinkled with a little bit of light crime. One person had to die. Brad and Ryan, like they were like on the sides. Dina was like kind of strapped to the ceiling. I think it was just one saw blade. And they could either keep it in the position that it's in, and that would kill Dina. She would just get like lowered to it and would cut her open. Or Ryan or Brad can push it one way or another, and it would kill whoever the blade was at. The guys basically decide like, yeah, we're done with you, Dina. We're breaking up. And then they just let her get killed. And it was a lot. Oh, and then also on top of that, this was literally in like a shop window. So this was in public and people were just watching. Like, I guess nobody could break the glass. Nobody could get in the store. Nobody saw this get set up. A very bizarre trap. I'm going to put it in petty. Giga based. I don't think I would put all three of them in based. If I put anybody in based, it would be Dina. Because you can't play around with a couple of guys' hearts like that. Fine, I'll put her at the bottom of based for now. Okay, so let me get horsepower and Jill out of the way, because then the rest are the main tests, you know? So horsepower was the name given to the test, or to the trap itself. Basically, it's this car where there's like these different Nazis that are set up in a position where they're going to be killed by this vehicle. Chester Bennington had a small role in this movie, and he was the main guy, like the main Nazi. He was like the one that like got the tape. He was in the driver's seat of the car, and he was like gorilla glued, like his back was like gorilla glued onto like the seat. There was like this gear that was like at like the front of the car that he had to like grab and pull. And basically, it would save everybody's life. He would have to basically rip his like skin, like back skin off by pulling himself forward. It was like pretty gnarly. He could not do it. All of his Nazi pals got killed. So like his girlfriend, her head was like under the tire. So obviously when the car started, it like ran her over. I think it like ripped some other guy apart and then ran through another guy. It was pretty brutal. And then in the end, he got like flung out of the vehicle. I'm gonna obviously have to say based. She finally met her end at the hands of Hoffman. Was it really a test? Hoffman just wanted to kill her. I mean, she tried to kill him. She knew what John Kramer was doing, and she was kind of like, I don't think she really helped him necessarily, but you know, she knew what was going on. I'm gonna put her in based, I guess. All right, so then we get to the main thing. Bobby claims that he survived. Jigsaw, like, he claims that he was tested. I don't remember if he mentioned why he got tested or if he gave a reason in interviews. He lied. He did not get tested by Jigsaw. And so, because of, and then he became very successful because of this lie. He had a book sale. He got all these interviews. He was making money, profiting off this lie. Because of that, Jigsaw was like, I'm going to test you for real this time. Except he wasn't just testing Bobby. He was testing everybody around him, his support system and all that. I'll do Bobby first since I just explained all of that. So Bobby lying about being tested and profiting off of it. I mean, that's bad. But at the same time, fuck Jigsaw, you know? I don't know. Maybe he's onto something. Part of me wants to go with petty, but at the same time, he just lied too much. Stolen valor or get that bag king. It is bad, but it's not as bad as some of these other people, you know? Suzanne was the lawyer to Bobby and co-conspirator in his lies. So in order to like keep her alive, it was kind of a similar thing in the last movie where William would have to take a bit of damage in order to like get somebody through. Except Bobby was lacking in this department. So he basically had to do like calf raises. Like there was more to it than that. Like I think he got like it would kind of stab him a little bit, but essentially it was calf raises. Bobby skipped calf day, and because of that, his lawyer got killed in a very slow and gruesome way. Did she need to be tested? Well, she's a lawyer. She knew he was lying, though. I don't know. I'm going to just put her in the job thing for now. Like, is it really that shitty to defend somebody who's just claiming to be a survivor of something? Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm leaning towards don't hate the player, but at the same time, like, if I could put her in the middle, maybe. So here, let me do Nina next, actually, because Nina, it's kind of a similar thing. So Nina was the publicist for Bobby, and I guess she must have known he was lying too. Her trap was speak no evil, and this test was pretty gross, especially because this trap doesn't even really show a lot of what's happening. The implication of knowing what's going on is like so gross. There's a key to like get her out of the trap that she's in, and it's on a fish hook that's been fished through her body, so it's inside of her. There's like little blades that kind of like move closer, and they'll eventually like kill her, like stab her, but it's all based on sound. So kind of like the test with Hank, where every breath that he took, like he would get crushed at the ribs. With this, anytime she makes any noise, like it was getting measured and the blades would come closer. Bobby had to like fish the hook out of her, but obviously it's like going through her like organs and esophagus and all that to get the key out, but she has to be quiet. It was nasty. It didn't really show a lot. Obviously she was like spitting up blood and all that, but oh, you just knew, like, oh, so gross. I'm going to put her in don't hate the player, hate the job for now too. I mean, she's a publicist. It's her job. She knew he was lying though. But again, is it like that big of a deal though? Kale was Bobby's best friend, and apparently he knew the truth. I don't know if he profited off of it at all. I think he just knew the truth and he just didn't care, or he was okay with it. He was just supportive of Bobby is what I have in the notes. His test was hear no evil. Kale was blindfolded, and it was like this hella like dilapidated floor. It was like a maze of sorts. Like Kale had to basically like find his way through on these planks, and there was like a long fall to his death waiting. Bobby had to like voice where he had to go to get to safety. Bobby was able to throw a key to him to like get the blindfold off, but Kale couldn't catch it. It fell, and then Kale ended up falling and he got hung, so he died. So yeah, being a supportive friend. I mean, even though your friend was lying, I'm leaning towards petty. So Joyce, I'm already going to put her in absolutely not. So Joyce didn't know that Bobby was lying, like legit thought that he had survived Jigsaw, so she was being a supportive wife. She got thrown into the brazen bowl trap. It had an interesting aspect to it because in his interviews and in his book, he claims that the test he had to do was there were these two big meat hooks that he had to like shove into his pecs. He had to like pull up his body weight using that to, I think it was grab a lever or something at the top. Jigsaw like says in the tape, okay, like the lever to release her is at the top. You already know what you have to do. You're going to use your own body weight, put the hooks into your pecs and pull yourself up. Unfortunately, it does not hold his weight. The physics does not work. Bobby can't do it, and his wife literally burns to death, and it was horrible. Jigsaw was kind of one of those hella retcon movies. I'll get to it when it's necessary, but it mostly has to do with this character, Logan, and being an apprentice, and the timeline of all that. It's just a lot. Edgar is part of like the very beginning. He's like being pursued by cops, trigger in his hands for like a device, basically told to like put the device down. And he says his test, like what he has to do is he has to release it. He gets shot and killed by a cop, presumably. Edgar killed Logan's wife. Logan it gets revealed he's also a Jigsaw apprentice. So yeah, so that's the reason why this guy's getting tested. I'm gonna go ahead and just put it in based because he was a literal murderer. So yeah, sure. Carly is being tested because she stole a woman's purse. The woman had an asthma attack. Carly did not give her the inhaler that would have been needed, so the woman died. Her test, she has this poison in her, and she has to inject herself with the correct solution in order to release not just herself, but everybody else from this chain trap that's pulling them into a motor. There's like these 3 syringes that come down. One of them has the antidote, one of them has some kind of an acid in it, and the other one I think was just like sugar water or something like that. She doesn't really get much of a say in it because Ryan stabs her with all 3 of them instead of trying to work through which one it could potentially be. Like, and I feel like this would be an easy one to figure out too. Like, obviously the acid would burn through something, right? So it's like, okay, can't be that one. Taste the other 2. If one tastes like sugar, that's probably not it. Thus, the last one left has to be the antidote. Did she deserve to be tested? I'm going to just put her into based because her actions did result in somebody being killed, and it was like, for what? You know, like she could have just given the woman her like inhaler, but she didn't. So that's kind of unnecessarily mean. So basically, the whole thing with this is everybody has like something really bad that they've done that they have to confess to. So Mitch sold a faulty motorcycle to John Kramer's nephew, of all people. Mitch knew the brakes didn't work, and he still sold it to him. It ultimately got the nephew killed. I'm going to say that's based. God, the base is actually full right now. Damn. So for Mitch's trap, it was interesting because it utilized that motorcycle with like the bad brake. He was strung up and lowered into this spiral of blades, and all he had to do was reach down and grab the brake or like the latch, and it would stop the motors. Mitch got like torn up and killed. Ryan and Anna were kind of tested against each other. I don't even really know what to call their test. It was basically this shotgun. Jigsaw was just kind of like, the key for your release is in this bullet or in the shotgun. Jigsaw makes it pretty clear, like, the way to get out of here is in the shotgun. So they interpret as one of them has to die. So they both go for the gun, but Anna ends up grabbing it. I think that there was also something said that was like something about like a situation being backwards or something like that. Anna fires the shotgun at Ryan thinking that that's what she has to do, but it fires backwards and it kills her. And so anyway, Ryan ends up, I guess, passing that test, but really nobody won because the key for their release was literally in the shell. And because she fired it, the key got destroyed. Ryan presumably just died of starvation, or I forgot. He actually had his leg cut off in like a different test. Anyway, so presumably he died from bleeding out from that previous wound or from starving, but he did not get out. Anyway, so the reason why Ryan was getting tested back in high school, he inadvertently like caused the death of like a few people. They showed it in a flashback. Like he was like dicking around in like the back seat of like his friend's convertible. He was like being drunk and rowdy and distracting like his friend who was driving and then the other friend in the passenger seat. Well, Ryan ended up somehow falling out of the car because of his drunken antics. His friend accidentally drove into another vehicle at a high speed, and it killed the other person of that car, but then also Ryan's 2 friends. Pretty shitty, but he was a kid and he was drunk. I mean, obviously 3 people died. I feel like based off of like how I've been doing this, I have to put him in based. Anna like kind of claimed she hadn't done anything wrong initially, but then she ended up finally revealing one night her baby was like, it wouldn't stop crying. She got tired of it, so she smothered her baby. And then she put the baby in bed next to her husband. And the next day claimed that he like rolled over and killed the baby in his sleep. So pretty evil shit. The husband got arrested and he ended up committing suicide because he felt so guilty over like thinking he killed the baby. So I'm going to definitely put Anna in based. Like, that's just so evil. I mean, for one, she killed her baby, but then to like gaslight her husband into thinking he killed the baby. Okay, so Halloran is one of Saul's favorite tropes, a corrupt detective. He had like an interesting like device attached to him. It was like this laser collar, and the lasers like shot up and then they would like move closer in unless he like confesses his crimes. He had to confess that he was a corrupt detective. He got innocents killed. He did that. Then, you know, Logan got revealed to be basically the Jigsaw of the movie, and he was like, haha, Halloran, I knew you were a shitty cop. Anyway, you're dead. And so Logan kills him anyway. Corrupt cop has to be based. Logan getting tested. Okay, so what is the simplest way I can explain this? Everything that you saw transpire in this movie actually took place a while ago, and he was part of it, but he was like the first one eliminated or something, but he wasn't. So what had happened was Logan was getting tested because he worked in the hospital that John Kramer went to. He mislabeled John Kramer's like MRI scans or something like that. And so because he didn't get the proper diagnosis of cancer, it was like too late to like remove the tumor. So that's why Logan was getting tested. Logan, and this is where I think it's so stupid, Jigsaw administered too much of a sleeping agent to Logan. So when everybody else woke up and were like already participating in the test, like in the very beginning of the movie, Logan was unconscious. By the time he came to, it was like too late. Everybody else had released themselves and he was like basically gonna die. So what they show in a flashback, Jigsaw busted in through like a secret door and he released Logan. He recognized that like what Logan did was like a mistake. And so because of that, he nursed his wounds and took care of him and took him under his wing to be an apprentice. Kind of crazy because I'm pretty sure that Jigsaw's literally not giving a fuck if people were ready or not for their tests. Kramer decided to treat and forgive him because of the honest mistake. That's like something that Jigsaw says, or what John Kramer says. It's not specifically mentioned if by honest mistake, if he means that in reference to Logan being knocked out still or for too long, or the hospital mix up. But I do have a note. Either way, it seems like an odd and inconsistent decision by John Kramer, which I definitely stand by. It's petty. It's a small mistake. It wasn't a malicious mistake. He obviously didn't mean to mix it up. So Spiral, technically not a Saw movie, but it's in the same universe and it's similar tests, so fuck it. The whole theme with this is corrupt cops. First one up is this guy named Boswick, crooked detective cop that lied on the stand. He had the subway trap. His tongue was in a vice. He's standing on something. He's also like in the path of an oncoming train. So he's like in a subway underground. He basically has to allow his lying tongue to be ripped out or he's going to die by the train. Last second, he decides to go for it. Unfortunately, he was too late. So he got hit by the train. Worst possible outcome because he felt the pain of ripping his tongue out and then he also died anyway. So he lied on the stand. I don't remember what exactly it was he was lying about, but that's pretty bad. Yeah, I'll say based. Fitch, another corrupt detective slash cop, he shot and killed an innocent person because they flipped him off. He had like this pretty elaborate but kind of cool fingers trap. He's in this pool. The pool is kind of like slowly starting to fill with water. There's like this exposed wire that's like kind of like, it's like at a certain point, like the water would fill up and it would electrocute him. The way that he can like get out of that is if he allows his fingers to be like ripped off in this mechanism type of thing. And again, he gets a really bad outcome because he goes for it, but can't commit to it. And so he ends up getting electrocuted anyway. This seems like kind of an easy one to beat as well. Like, I feel like he could have just like shimmied his way like out. I don't know. It's definitely a base decision. Garza is like the lieutenant, and she's pretty corrupt, I guess, because she allows a lot of this shit to happen and she covers for it. But she has this wax trap. She basically has the choice either to, which it's not really good options, where if she like pushes her neck back on the blade, it would sever her spine, or she can get her face covered in hot wax and it will drown her. She tried to sever her spine, but it just wasn't working, I guess. So again, she got like the worst possible outcomes of that because she was cutting away at her neck and it wasn't doing I guess it didn't do the job, and she was getting all this hot wax poured onto her face and nasty stuff. As far as the corruption goes, like, she would cover for it, so obviously that's like really bad. She's like not allowing justice, but I don't know if she actually physically did anything like kill anybody who was innocent. I'll put her in based, I guess. Man, this is wild. I can't believe I have this many people in based. Here I was like making an argument about how Jigsaw's petty as fuck, but these last few ones were quite a few bad people. Dunleavy was Zeke's partner, but Zeke turned Dunleavy in for something that he did, and so everybody hates Zeke, aka Chris Rock's character, for being a rat. Zeke saw him like kill a person that was a witness to a crime that a cop did. Basically, Dunleavy killed the witness so his cop buddy wouldn't get in trouble for something. The person who's like the Jigsaw of this movie, it was Zeke's new partner, who turned out to be the son of the witness that Dunleavy had killed. He served time in jail. He stopped drinking. I guess he was an alcoholic or something during that time. He didn't really do that much jail time. I think it was only like 9 years or something like that. Shitty he did it, but he recognized it was something he shouldn't have done. I guess I'll do onto something. I don't know. I'm very iffy. Part of me wants to put him in petty, because he did do the time in jail, maybe not sufficient time, but he got sober. He recognized what he did was wrong. Zeke was getting tested, I want to say, just because it's like weird. Like, I feel like he's only getting tested because he's in the middle of everything, but he kind of is instrumental in a couple of the tests. So the Dunleavy test is him like strung up, and there's like all these like glass bottle shards that are getting shot at him. Zeke has to like kind of help him. Either he can help him escape, or he can basically just like let him be killed. Zeke also hates corrupt cops too. So it's like kind of a similar slow ass Jeff type situation, where it's like he can kind of decide whether or not to help somebody or just let them die, and it really isn't at any cost to him. He tries to help Dunleavy, but it's kind of too late. Marcus, or Zeke's dad, was originally like the lieutenant for the department. Garza ended up replacing him. When he was in charge, it was like the most corrupt it's been. Like, all of like these crimes that like these guys and whatnot were like being tested for were during his time. I don't know. I'm going to just have to put him in base. The test with Marcus, he's like in this like kind of like puppet type of like trap thing, and he's being bled out slowly. Zeke ends up like coming face to face with the Jigsaw of the movie. He has two options, although he could technically do both. So his options are either to free his dad by shooting this like target, and it would release his dad, knowing his dad's super corrupt and led this very corrupt force, or he can shoot and kill, or basically arrest the new Jigsaw. So Zeke ends up freeing his dad, but then in kind of a twist, I guess. Like, it was kind of silly. The Jigsaw says, nah, fuck that. And while like the police are swarming this building because I guess they got the tip, Marcus like gets pulled up into a position where it looks like he's holding a gun. So the cops come busting in and they open fire on him because they think that he's this crazed guy with a gun. It was crazy. And then during that time, the bad guy gets away and Zeke's like crying and shit, and I don't know. It was definitely not my favorite. Zeke getting tested, I don't understand. I guess absolutely not. I don't understand why he was really getting tested. I think it was just a circumstance thing. I do know that like his partner, you know, the Jigsaw was like, hey, you could work with me. You hate corrupt cops as much as I do. But he was like, no. So I don't know. It was pretty wild. So for absolutely not, the top one who should not have been getting tested, I'm going to put Sydney. Addie did like nothing wrong. She's just living her life, just happens to work for this insurance company. Joyce was just being a supportive wife. I'm going to put Alan last on the absolutely not. He was said to be a loner, could be a mod or something, and that's teetering on the petty side, so I'll keep him there. I think I'm gonna keep Hank there. Hoffman already got tested, so the fact Jigsaw was like, my final wish is for you to get tested again is just so stupid and just so petty, so I think I'll keep him there. Actually, no, I'll put him more towards the bottom because he is a bad guy still. Ryan and Brad, let me see. They did do some petty crimes. I'm going to put Kale before them. Logan getting tested because of a mistake, human error. I'm going to put him down here. And then, yeah, I'll just keep Hoffman there because he, like, passed his test. But honestly, his test was kind of bullshit anyway. Like, it was just a psychological one. Like, everybody else is sacrificing limbs or some shit or more torment. I will keep Strom there because Strom was just being a good detective or special agent. He wasn't just a detective. He was like higher up on the food chain. Lawyer, I'm going to put you down here. Yeah, I think I'll keep it like that. Luba, I'm pretty sure she actually assaulted Charles to make sure that he wasn't one of the ones that went into the tunnel. You know what? I'm going to move Dina to here. I'll put him like this. She took a bribe. He took a bribe. I'm going to put her at the okay, I'll do it like that, I think. Yeah, I think so. This is not a very confident one. I feel like I'm going to put her at the bottom. Seth murdered somebody. Britt did something that got 8 people killed. I'll put her maybe above Seth because Seth actually did go to jail. Britt did not, and she profited off of it. Anna's pretty evil, though. Malik, I'm going to kind of put down a little bit just because he didn't know anybody was in there. Marcus and Garza are going to have to be close together because they're, like, kind of the same. A lot of these are just corrupt, like, detectives and shit. Ryan, I'm going to kind of put at the bottom here because that was, like, a mistake from long ago. Although I don't know if he paid the price for it. Alex is a shitty boyfriend. I don't think he didn't, like, kill anybody, but he was abusive, but I'll put him a little bit lower. Nazis are gonna have to go after Baby Killer, I guess. Hoffman's pretty bad. William's pretty bad. I mean, Hoffman's worse. Edgar killed somebody. Carly killed somebody. Mitch did something that got somebody killed, but not directly killed them. I'm gonna put him here. This. Oh, wait, no, this. And then William, shotgun carousel. Edgar and Carly. Where do I put them? I'm gonna put them down a little bit. Is Boswick worse than Fitch? He lied on the stand. I don't think he killed anybody, but Fitch killed somebody, so I'm gonna put him there. Let's actually put him here. I think that's okay. That was pretty fun. I enjoyed doing the tier list. It's pretty cool. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.